The Lord of the Rings War in the North is back. Originally released all the way back in 2011, War in the North has returned with a new Legacy Edition, and I've just spent about 50 minutes playing it on the Nintendo Switch 2, and I have to admit, there's actually quite a bit here that I like. The combat is fun, the Lord of the Rings nostalgia definitely works, and after looking at the game more closely, I actually think the graphics hold up better than I initially gave them credit for. But after nearly an hour with War in the North, I'm also starting to realise that this probably isn't a game I'm going to stick with. Let me explain. First, let's talk about the combat, because this is probably what I've enjoyed most so far. War in the North is very much a hack-and-slash action RPG. You're fighting groups of enemies with straightforward attacks, blocking, dodging, and abilities. And it doesn't take very long to get comfortable with everything. And honestly, it's fun. There's something satisfying about wading into a group of enemies and just swinging away. It isn't trying to overwhelm you with an incredibly complicated combat system. You can get into the action quickly, and for a game that's about 15 years old, I think the combat still feels pretty good. Of course, it helps that all of this is happening in Middle-earth. There's a definite nostalgia factor here. The characters, enemies, environments, and general atmosphere immediately feel familiar if you're a Lord of the Rings fan. And there's something charming about going back to this older style of licensed game. This isn't trying to give you an enormous open world with hundreds of icons scattered across a map. It's a straightforward Lord of the Rings adventure, where you grab your weapon, head into battle, and start taking down enemies. And sometimes, that's all a game really needs to be. I also want to give the graphics more credit than I initially did. You can certainly tell that War in the North originally came from 2011. Some of the character models, textures, and animations show their age. But honestly, I don't think the game looks bad. In fact, there have been quite a few moments where I've thought it looks surprisingly good, considering how old the original game is. The environments still have plenty of atmosphere, the characters and armor look decent, and once I had been playing for a while, I really wasn't thinking about the age of the graphics very much. So if you're worried that this is going to look painfully outdated on the Switch 2, based on what I've played so far, I don't think that's the case. There is one smaller annoyance that I have noticed though. Your party members can occasionally get in your way. You'll be trying to move through an area or position yourself during combat, and one of your companions will suddenly be standing exactly where you want to go. It's certainly not enough to ruin the combat, but I've noticed it several times already in my first 50 minutes, so it's something worth mentioning. My biggest issue with War in the North isn't the combat, and it isn't the graphics, it's the structure. So far, this has been a very linear experience. I've mostly been moving forward through an area, fighting groups of enemies, progressing a little farther, fighting another group, and continuing with the story. And I want to be very clear here, that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I think there are plenty of people who are going to really enjoy that. There's something refreshing about a game that doesn't constantly distract you with dozens of side activities. War in the North seems perfectly happy to point you toward the adventure and keep things moving. But personally, I've realised that I want more freedom from the games I play these days. I like wandering around, I like exploring, I like finding resources, discovering things off the beaten path, and occasionally forgetting what I was supposed to be doing because I spotted something interesting in the distance. And at least during these first 50 minutes, War in the North hasn't really given me that. It's been much more about following the path in front of me and experiencing the story and combat as the game presents them. And I think that's ultimately why this one probably isn't for me. What's interesting though, is that I'm not walking away from it thinking it's a bad game. Quite the opposite. The combat is enjoyable. The graphics hold up surprisingly well. The Lord of the Rings atmosphere is absolutely there. And there's a nostalgic charm to playing this kind of straightforward action RPG again. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan who enjoys linear hack-and-slash games, I could actually see this being a really enjoyable return to Middle-earth, especially if you played War in the North when it originally released and have some nostalgia for it. For me though, I think I need a little more freedom and exploration. So after my first 50 minutes with the Lord of the Rings War in the North Legacy Edition on Nintendo Switch 2, I'm glad I gave it a try. I enjoyed the combat, I enjoyed being back in Middle-earth, and visually it's held up considerably better than I expected. But I don't think it's a game I'm going to continue playing. And that's okay. Sometimes you can recognise that a game does quite a few things well and still realise that it simply isn't the kind of experience you're looking for. If you've been playing War in the North on Switch 2, I'd love to know what you think of it. And if you played the original back in 2011, let me know how this new Legacy Edition compares to the game you remember. Thanks for watching.